Welcome back to Ana Dialogue, the dialogue on analog music reproduction. And today we are going to focus on analog media, that is for sure. In fact, great news, I know that most of you already know this. Rhino, actually the High-Fidelity Rhino series, which up until now was only dedicated to vinyl, is now dedicated also to reel-to-reel tape. Fantastic news, guys. The more people, the more labels start to do this, the better it's going to be. I mean, others are going to jump in for sure. So this is always going to be positive, regardless if you're interested or not. Okay, now the cool part is that this is focused on rock, finally. You know I'm a huge jazz buff. I love also classical music, not as much as jazz. Folk, other genres are out there. But rock is difficult. It's difficult because all those master tapes are in the vaults of these guys and they rarely leave the house. In fact, these are done by Rhino. Nevertheless, they have given these, not the exact masters, but as we will see, working copies to a second party. But first things first, let's go through the different aspects of the tape and the series. Okay, up until now, only the first two titles have been released, okay? And in a few days, rumors say that they're going to release a special edition of something new for Christmas, mainly, we could say. Okay, for now we know that these tapes are limited to 500 copies each. And since I'm doing this video and they were released in October, if I don't go wrong, and now we're at the end of November, they're not selling out immediately, okay? So there are still copies on the store, which means that they don't have that a strong appeal, at least for now, like the vinyl releases, clearly because of the cost involved. That is reasonable, and I understand this, but I think that they are having some promising results. I really hope this series is going to go ahead, because they have some great points, which we're going to explore here below. Okay, so the price for each tape is $300. Actually, if you buy them both, there's a little discount, which is also very nice, and they go for $570, $30 discount. Not bad at all. And as many have pointed out, if we think of the other releases out there, the price is much cheaper. But there is a reason, obviously. It's not just they decided to put a lower price tag. No, clearly there is a little, some choices that bring the costs down, let's say. And I'm going to tell you which one. But let's go in order. I have some little notes here. So let's try first to see how these two releases are done before going ahead. So first of all, we have the Yes album. Very nice. As you can see, it's only one box. The box is decent. We have some nice pictures here, which are not of low quality. They're nice and shiny. So this is going to be pretty much durable. The box itself, it's decent. I mean, I like it. Nothing to write home about. Here we have the catalog number, if you are interested in that. Here you go. And what do we have inside? So let's take a look. Just as the High-Fidelity Rhino series, vinyl series, we have an inlay where we have the picture of the original master tapes. Okay, let me show you better. That's cool. Where you can also see some details, actually, of the master tape. Like, for example, you can notice that this was Dolby'd, so it went through Dolby. Something not that common in the early 70s. At least this version, because you never know if there are other versions out there, but this should be the original master tape. And also some nice liner notes coming from the original, we could say vinyl, plus some notes here also on the dubbing, the production of these tapes. And very nice, this was not expected at this price. I think you have a reel made out of metal. And if you know how much these cost, you're already doing some math, and you can understand that $300 is very reasonable in the realm of reel-to-reel tape. Absolutely. So this was the Yes, and here we have the other release. Fantastic. fantastic album by T-Rex, Electric Warrior. I love this. I have it on vinyl, I have it on CD, and now I have it on tape. And you're not going to find these. I mean, it's really, really difficult to find these things, rock releases on tape. Here we can see that there is also another picture of the cover of the master. They have more on this up in the following part. Here again we have some pictures and the liner notes of the original release. And once again, like the other one, we have another nice metal reel with the Rhino High-Fidelity logo. Very nice. Okay, what are the characteristics of this release? First of all, the big difference among the deluxe edition of other companies, other labels. This is recorded on LPR 90 by Recording the Masters, okay? I'm sure a lot of you already know, actually, who's a tape buff knows exactly what this is. This is practically the thinner version of the SM900, which is the top of the line of Recording the Masters. Recording the Masters have the original recipes of Agfa and then Emtech and all the rest that came afterwards, okay? Pyro and so forth. So they have excellent tapes. In my opinion, it's the best out there, and I understand the choice. But clearly they're based in Europe, and that is probably why at the end, to cut some costs and optimize the production, they are sending the copies of the master to Europe, to France, to make the production. But just wanted to finish the details of the tape. We have an IEC EQ. They all, obviously, this is a 1/4 inch tape, 2-track, 15 inch per second. So a classical release. Everything is in the normal standard, we could say, but it's released on LPR 90, which allows to put the entire album on one reel, which I must admit that sometimes it's a little easier and more, I don't know, you're more inclined to pick it up and put it, because you have to rewind it, its tails out, and then listen the whole album with only one reel instead of changing them. So every once in a while, once again, I think that's a nice treat, instead of switching the two sides A and sides B on SM900, because clearly you need 2 reels when you're using that type of tape. Okay, so let's go now over the duplication process, because this is very, very important. So they have the masters, original masters, the masters ready to then make a specific version, and that master is dubbed, okay? They make copies at Rhino, at Warner, wherever they are, and in this case they do 2 working copies per album. And why did they send 2 per album? Because, I mean, if you have to do 500 copies, it's better to have another copy, at least another copy, in order to have a quality dubbing from the first one, almost we could say, to the last one. I mean, when you're running it for 500 times, it may have some problems at the end. Instead, if you're already halving that, that's a very good thing to do. So congratulations to that. Okay, so they send these working copies to RTM, Recording the Masters in France. From those, they play them back on a Studer A810, very high quality, as you can imagine, serviced. Plus, this is sent to a Sonifex RBDA6. How do I know this? Because I contact RTM, who gave me all the info on this process. This is just a distribution amplifier, okay? It shouldn't change, shouldn't alter, at least not that much, the signal, in order to send the signal live to 5 Revox PR99, okay? It's not a daisy chain. It's stemming out directly to 5, thanks to this distributor of the signal. So they do one-on-one copies directly, okay? With no high speed or anything like that, or one coming from the other, stemming from the other. No, they do them from the copy they have, the copy of the master tape, directly to these 5 Revoxes recorders. Plus, they told me that all these Revoxes were serviced and restored by Real Resilience in Derby, UK. Okay, another little piece of info, and it shows that everything is maintained and carefully scrutinized and perfectly calibrated to do this operation. Absolutely. So in the end, you're going to have a 1-to-1 copy, which is clearly a third generation. If obviously they're using the master coming from the mix, or if the down mix created directly a master, okay? It depends. Sometimes you have the down mix. I did a video, I didn't tell you a video on the different types of mastering and masters. Here is a link. If you're interested, you're going to find the links here below in the video description. I forgot to mention one important fact, that according to Steve Woolard, the director of artist and repertoire at Rhino, these tapes are dubbed in sequence. So you're going to have 1 coming from the dub number 1, 2, dub number 2, 3, dub number 3, all the way down to 500, even though they're going to switch to 250, as we said. So if in fact you check the number, you will understand at what point your copy was made, was produced. And this, sound-wise, does have an impact. For example, I have 148 for Electric Warrior, which is pretty good. And actually, I was very lucky with the Yes, as you can see in the pictures, because I have number 2, because I bought these immediately as soon as the newsletter arrived. So as you can see, Electric Warrior got immediately much more selling points than the Yes album. But this, once again, is to focus to remember that if you have a very high number, obviously the sonics are going to be a little less clear, detail, and dynamic than the first copies. Okay, now we are going to listen some sound samples, okay? Some brief passages of both tapes played on my Telefunken M15, converted with my Lyric Prism Lyric 2, and then put here. You're also going to find the high-resolution versions for download in the video description once again. Afterwards, I'll give you my take. Let's go. Okay, guys, so you've heard some samples. Clearly, it's converted to digital. It's not the real thing, obviously, but you can have a better idea in respect to what you can find online. Now, I have these albums on vinyl, on CD, different versions of vinyl. I've listened also to the high res, so I do have a good idea of these two. And my considerations are the following. I must admit that Electric Warrior is somehow a little flat, okay? Something is missing. It's not dynamic as you would expect from a master tape copy. In fact, there are some rumors that maybe it's not the real copy since it was first released in the UK, the album, and maybe it's just a second version that came out of production copy, or who knows, by Tony Visconti and things like that. We don't know exactly. What we do know, though, if we take a look actually at this picture of the master, the tape master, there are some hints on maybe what is going on. Because if you look at this, actually, I think what we're looking, obviously I don't know, I'm not sure, but looking at this, it seems rather clear that this is a production master, not a real master. Yeah, they wrote master, but this can only be that this is the original version needed to do lacquers, meaning vinyl records, which already can have, usually that's why you're doing a master for vinyl, some EQs in that sense. Not the RIA, that comes after, that's applied when they cut the lacquer. But this could already have some modifications for vinyl, which, as we know, sometimes necessitate some roll-off, some compression in the lower frequency, and things like that. It's not a flat frequency response coming from the mix down. Not necessarily, though. You never know, okay? I'm not saying it is. And plus, it also says here, use for lacquer only. CEQ copy for tape copies. So this, for me, is something that is a little more far from the original master tape, and that was used to only produce vinyl records. I'm sure they used the best they had in the house, so we can't complain too much, but I do sense that if we're talking about a master tape, I would really need that oomph in the lower frequencies and just more dynamic. I was expecting more dynamics. There's a little compression also maybe in the mid-range. The voice of Mark is not so clear. And yeah, it's just something that, I'm sorry to say, you have a bias. When you spend that kind of money and you have that kind of medium in your hand, you really expect the top of the tops. So, you do sense some differences here and there that you're not listening to a CD. I mean, there is some parts, and especially I would say some songs with some differences, okay? So it's not, the judgment is not always complete. Actually, the first songs are worse than the ones that come after, strangely. The ones after are a little more dynamic, so it depends by track, actually. Talking instead of the Yes album, things change a lot, and I think this is superior to any vinyl release you can find in your collection. Absolutely, no questions. Nevertheless, I do know true master copies, or even masters, okay? And a real master is always going to be much more dynamic than these. But I'm not saying that Rhino is doing something wrong. It's just that in most cases, I don't know why, even the ones from Acoustic Sounds, although even the ones I find in Europe or other productions, not all of them have that power, that raw power that a master tape should have. Now, it is true, and I have to say this, because otherwise it seems that all these copies out there are trash. No, they're excellent, they're fantastic. There's much more detail, finesse, and a nice ambient, a nice reconstruction of the scene, of the scenario, that rarely you can obtain from digital, even less, and we can say vinyl gets pretty close. But the problem is probably also the fact that these tapes are degrading, are slowly losing their dBs. I mean, this is normal. It's stuff that has more than 50 years, you guys. So if it's not stored perfectly, or simply if the type of tape of formula isn't optimal, we are losing something in the signal slowly, day by day, month by month, year by year. So that can also take place, okay? Don't think that somewhere someone has the perfect master tape copy and they're keeping it hidden under the bed. No. It's probably a combination of both. Sometimes they did not find the right one, or they process it wrong, or sometimes simply the master tape ain't that good anymore, unfortunately. Okay, so this was my take. If you guys already bought these and heard these somewhere, or you purchased them, let me know your thoughts in your comments. I'm very interested. Thank you for watching, and remember that music is born analog.
Hey there, if you are enjoying my content, please consider to subscribe. It's free, and it will help the channel tremendously. Also, don't forget to explore my prior videos. There's something for everyone.
Welcome to the audiophile community.